The 1980s were a blockbuster machine, churning out massive hits and pop culture icons that still hold up today. But beneath all that success, the decade also produced a quieter run of bold, ambitious movies that never got their due. Smart, stylish, and still hitting just as hard now, these are 9 great 80s movies that deserved better. Mickey Rourke plays a private detective in 1955 New York who takes what seems like a routine missing persons case from a mysterious client, played by Robert De Niro. The search leads him from Brooklyn to New Orleans, where every answer spawns 3 new questions, and reality itself starts feeling negotiable. Director Alan Parker fought a brutal battle with the MPAA over a single scene, a sex sequence intercut with dripping blood that earned the film an X rating. After extensive negotiations, Parker finally trimmed 10 seconds to secure an R. He later called it trimming with tweezers, to satisfy censors who seemed more concerned with the scene's religious implications than its violence. The controversy actually helped at the box office. The film made $17 million on an $18 million budget, so about what it cost. But it also overshadowed the performances and Parker's oppressive atmosphere. De Niro took a supporting role specifically to work with Parker, and Rourke was at his absolute peak, a few years before he'd disappear into boxing and plastic surgery. The film's reputation has only grown. It's considered one of the decade's most unsettling supernatural noirs, even if audiences in 1987 weren't quite ready for where it was willing to go. Rutger Hauer plays John Ryder, a hitchhiker who turns a young driver's cross-country trip into a waking nightmare of escalating violence and psychological warfare. C. Thomas Howell is the kid who makes the mistake of picking him up on a desolate Texas highway, and the ride becomes a cat-and-mouse pursuit where the Hitcher dictates every move and the violence spreads to anyone in their path. John Ryder seems almost supernatural in his ability to stay one step ahead, appearing where he shouldn't be possible, surviving what should kill him, always smiling that death's head grin. The script came from Eric Red, who wrote it while driving a taxicab in Austin, Texas, after going broke trying to distribute his short film. He spent 7 months there writing The Hitcher before sending letters to 300 Hollywood producers pitching the screenplay. Director Robert Harmon was a first-timer who'd only made commercials, and he brought a clean, minimalist style that made the violence more brutal. The studio wanted the film cut for an R rating, but Harmon and producer David Bombick fought to keep an unrated version in some theaters. The movie found its audience on home video, embraced for giving them a villain with no psychology and no limits. Hauer said he played the character as the devil or the devil's apprentice, and you can feel it in every scene. Legendary Japanese director Akira Kurosawa spent 10 years trying to get his King Lear adaptation made. He was 75 years old and knew this might be his last chance at an epic. So when French financing finally came through, the $12 million budget made it the most expensive Japanese movie ever made. An aging warlord divides his kingdom among his 3 sons, expecting loyalty and peace. Instead, he gets betrayal, war, and madness as the sons turn on each other and him. The battles unfold across windswept plains and burning castles, all rendered in Kurosawa's signature wide compositions and chaos that somehow feels choreographed. What Shakespeare set in medieval Britain, Kurosawa transplanted to feudal Japan, making the patriarch's descent into insanity feel both intimate and apocalyptic. Ran is stunning in a way few films are. Kurosawa spent years painting storyboards for every single shot, and that obsessive attention shows. The film looks like a series of museum paintings brought to life. If you've never watched a Kurosawa film, this is the one to start with. It's slower and more deliberate than modern epics. Kurosawa called it his life's work, and it's one of the most beautiful films ever made. Sean Connery plays Federal Marshal William T. O'Neill, assigned to a mining colony on one of Jupiter's moons, where workers keep dying in gruesome accidents. He discovers the mine's administrators are dealing an amphetamine that boosts productivity, but eventually causes psychotic breaks and violent deaths. When O'Neill threatens to expose the operation, the company sends hired killers on the next shuttle, and he's got exactly a week to prepare for an Old West showdown. Director Peter Hyams wrote the script specifically as High Noon in Space, complete with the marshal asking for help and watching everyone refuse as the clock counts down. He also shot the film himself as cinematographer, a rarity for studio productions, but something Hyams did throughout his career. The production design created a genuinely industrial space environment, cramped corridors, flickering lights, and practical grit instead of the gleaming starships audiences expected after Star Wars. The movie cost $16 million and barely broke even, caught in that awkward space between hardcore sci-fi fans who wanted more science and action audiences who wanted less talking. It opened the same month as Raiders of the Lost Ark and quickly disappeared, but it's become a bit of a cult favorite for people who want their space westerns to actually commit to the western part. An alien parasite jumps from body to body in Los Angeles, turning ordinary people into violent hedonists obsessed with Ferraris, heavy metal, and mass murder. Kyle MacLachlan plays an FBI agent hunting the creature with the help of a skeptical LAPD detective played by Michael Nouri. The buddy cop setup doesn't last long once MacLachlan's character Lloyd Gallagher starts acting different. Written by Bob Hunt, a writer who'd written nothing before or since, and it remains one of Hollywood's great one-hit wonders. Director Jack Shoulder had just come off A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and wanted to prove he could handle more than slashers. The movie came and went at the time, but found a second life on cable and VHS, where viewers discovered a smart B-movie that balances thrills and sci-fi weirdness. It's proof that genre films work best when they commit to being entertaining and strange in equal measure. Kyle MacLachlan took the role between shooting Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks, already showing a knack for playing guys who seem off in ways you can't quite pin down. And you never quite know if he's one of the good guys or someone who's in on it. Anthony Edwards plays a jazz musician who answers a ringing payphone at 4 a.m. and gets a frantic call from a missile silo officer claiming nuclear war has just started. They have 70 minutes before the bombs hit Los Angeles. The next hour unfolds in real-time panic as he tries to save the woman he just fell in love with and escape a city that doesn't know it's about to end. The entire movie takes place between 4 a.m. and 5:10 a.m., and director Steve DeJarnett maintains that real-time urgency through long takes and escalating chaos. Edwards, best known at the time were Top Gun and Revenge of the Nerds, gave a performance that's all raw nerve endings and desperate improvisation. Mare Winningham plays the woman he's trying to save, and their relationship, formed over a single dinner date, carries the emotional weight of everything that follows. Much of the movie was shot on a closed stretch of Wilshire Boulevard over 18 nights, giving the city a strange, emptied-out feeling that grows creeper as the clock runs down. Edwards paces from diners to payphones, trying to warn people who have no reason to believe him. Life continues as normal, which is exactly the point. By the time anyone starts paying attention, the window to do anything about it has already closed. Roy Scheider plays Officer Frank Murphy, a Vietnam veteran helicopter pilot for the LAPD who gets selected to test a new surveillance chopper loaded with weapons, thermal imaging, and listening technology that can hear conversations through walls. It's a prototype for urban control that his superiors plan to use for political surveillance. When Murphy discovers the truth, he steals Blue Thunder, and the city becomes a war zone. Scheider did many of his own flying stunts, and the production used 5 different helicopters to achieve shots that would be impossible with CGI today. The premise sounds almost ridiculous, a rogue attack helicopter on the loose in Los Angeles, but director John Badham pulls it off. The film remains one of the decade's smartest action thrillers, willing to use spectacle to sell ideas about power and control. Malcolm McDowell plays Scheider's antagonist with the smug menace of someone who knows the system will protect him. Their confrontation isn't just personal, It's about institutional power and what happens when someone built for combat realizes the real enemy is bureaucracy. The movie's warnings about militarized police and warrantless surveillance feel even more relevant today. Burt Lancaster plays Lou, a small-time numbers runner in Atlantic City, who still dresses like it's 1955 and acts like he was a somebody during the mob's heyday. Susan Sarandon is Sally, a casino worker taking care of her pregnant, irresponsible sister while dreaming of becoming a blackjack dealer in Monte Carlo. Their lives intersect when her estranged husband shows up with stolen nose candy, and Lancaster sees one final chance to be the gangster he always pretended to be. Famed French director Louis Malle shot the film during Atlantic City's desperate transformation from decaying resort town to casino economy, half the city being demolished, while the other half pretended to be Las Vegas. Lancaster, at 66, gave what many consider his finest late-career performance, playing a man who's constructed his entire identity from lies and faded newspaper clippings. The script came from John Guare, the playwright who'd later write 6 Degrees of Separation. He built the screenplay around contradictions. Louis is pathetic and noble. Sally is ambitious and trapped. The city itself is dying and being reborn. The movie earned 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, Actor, Actress, Director, and Screenplay, but won nothing. It's classic Malle. Quiet, observant, hardly judging, and Lancaster proving one final time that he could break your heart.